Puff Daddies United. So I'm coming at you tonight. I'm gonna do a little tutorial how to spool braided line onto a spinning rod. Very simple, yet there are a couple tricks to the trade, and I wanted to go ahead and let all of you know how I'm going to be doing it, or how I've done it, and what will work effectively for you. So first off, I've gotten 2 new rods today. This is one that I've already owned. It's a Denali Attacks 7-foot 2-inch heavy action. Use it for crankbaits with a Fluger Patriarch. It's a beautiful setup, very beautiful setup. So on that note, I've got 2 more identical. I've had the Patriarchs. Again, I got a 7-foot 2 Denali Attacks graphite blanks, super sensitive. So I bought a medium heavy, which is this one. And then the one I'm going to be demonstrating on is another one identical to the first, the heavy action. All 3 the same reel, Fluger Patriarchs. And then 3 of the same rods, 2 medium heavy and 2 heavy, 1 medium. So 1 I already have. You get the idea. So what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be using Stren 15-pound Superline. It is braid. It is white. So I like to use green. I like to use white. It just depends on what I'm fishing. But based on Ohio waters, generally either they're very, very clear or very, very murky. So we're going to be putting this on. First thing that you want to do when putting braid on a spinning rod is take mono or fluoro. Here I'm using some extra Stren 8-pound fluoro. And you want to make sure I didn't get this all crossed up here. I got a little head start on the video. As you can see, I've tied off my knot around the reel. And I want to put on just enough fluoro or mono to cover the entire spool. So I've gone on there, tied up my little square knot. And I'm going to take my skizzers and I'm going to cut the knot, or cut just at the knot, so there's virtually as small of a lead as possible off what I'm not using. And it's a pain in the ass because these scissors suck. Okay, hang on. So we've got this is fluorocarbon. You can use mono, you can use a hybrid, whatever you want. You want to use enough to cover your entire spool. The braid is very, very slick and can come right off your spool if you're not careful. Also, braid tends to be thicker, clearly, depending on what test you're using, and needs something to grab onto. If it's just going to grab onto itself at the base, that's how you get the clumpage. So what I'm going to do here is just got it through my top eyelet or through my bottom eyelet, and I'll use my finger, keep the pen between my feet. I'm going to go ahead and reel just enough of this in to get a good little cover on the entire spool. Okay, so I've gotten, literally, that's all you need, maybe 10 yards at the most, just depending on the size of your spool. Just enough to cover so you get a grip. Like I said, you're gonna want this braid to grab onto this. Now to the important thing, the end of my fluoro, or whatever you're going to be using. I'm going to take my new line and I'm going to tie a very, very, very low profile knot to this lead and then continue the process. Biggest thing is lower profile knot. You're not going to have it hang up. You're not going to have any nonsense. The weakest point of your spool will be right where the 2 knots meet. Obviously this is 8-pound. Fluoro is stronger than mono. This is 15-pound straight braid. Generally speaking, this rod's rated for, I'm going to probably put about between 90 and 110 yards on there. Going to hold a little bit more, but I always run a little bit light. Do what you want to do, though. The weakest point is going to be obviously at the knot, but if I have 100 and some odd yards of line on here, if whatever hog beast of the deep gets me down to this point during the fight, then I'm probably or guaranteed in bad shape anyway. So let me pause for a second. I'm going to get this knot together, then I'll show you and we will continue. I'm just going to videotape myself tying the knot just so. So I'm going to snip my ends again. Okay, so there you have it. Very low profile knot. It's not coming apart. Now the biggest thing is start getting it on. Now, people always ask me how to keep your line positioned. And this is what I'm doing, keeping tension nice and tight on there. This is 150 yards, so I'm going to use up most of it. Keep your reel, or your spool, I'm sorry, keep your spool face up. If your reel is spinning counterclockwise, then make sure that the braid or line is coming off counterclockwise. I always go through my bottom eyelet, keep it nice and taut, keep the rod vertical, and then I wrap it between my first, if not first 2 fingers, and keep my fist out. So it's coming in straight. As you can see, it's coming in straight, and then it's acting as a pinch point right here, which you can see complete tension as it hits the reel. It's going on tight, very, very tight. You can see, ooh, geez. No loops or lumps. I always like to leave about 1/8 of an inch. Put on a little less line than normal just because this is new braid. I've never used this brand before, so in the event that I don't like it, I don't really want to spend 4 hours pulling it off. Left about 1/8 of an inch gap. I'm going to go ahead and string her up and throw on this Buddha Baits 3/8 ounce swim jig. Delicious. So bear with me. Now, one thing people do, especially if you're using a darker line or a lighter line or fire line, yellow line, purple line, some people like to tie a lead. So pretend this is your top eyelet. This is the end of your braid. Some people like to take what I did at the beginning with some fluoro or some mono and tie a lead on here. You can use the same pound test. It's just for clarity in the water. If the water is very clear and you're using something bright or that sticks out, just kind of hides the end of it. But then you also have a weak point. So if my lure was here and I had a lead up to here, then you have a weak point here. If you hook into jaws or something like that, that's gonna break you off. Versus where at the end, if you get down to that amount of line, you're probably in for some trouble anyway. So if you use the same pound test, fine. But I would say 15-pound braid versus 15-pound mono or 15-pound fluoro. Granted, they're rated the same, but I think we all know that there is definitely a fine line you're walking with different types of line. All right, so we're strung up. It's always nice stringing up a brand new rod, brand new reel. Well, the reel, I've had both of those Patriarchs for a while. They were just on different rods. I've actually broken 2 of these same rods. I broke one at the beginning of last year, ordered another one, broke that one. So I always had 2, now I have 3. And then I have one of the ones, just the tip broke right between the first and second eyelets right about here. So I think it should cover it under warranty. I might have to pay a few bucks for shipping, but you can't beat Denali's service package. So again, tying on the Buddha Baits 3/8 ounce green pumpkin swim head brushless weed guard, or brush weedless guard, I should say. And there you have it. So I've got my jig tied on, got my brand new braid on here. One thing I like to do with my braid, let's not hook the couch. I'm in my basement. Granted, I'm doing this now because it's crappy out. It's only February 3rd, and I can feel even in just the couple small reels, this line's very smooth. Hopefully it'll take a beating. Whenever I'm about to fish with braid, mainly, I don't really use so much braid for my bass stuff. I'm going to get into it more this year. I fish exclusively spinning rods too. Don't ask me why, it's just what I prefer. I always take my spool and just dip it in water just a little bit. Don't submerge it all the way for 10 minutes just to get the line a little wet, erase any memory that it might potentially have, and you're good to go. So again, Start with your lead. Keeps it all nice and gripped. Make sure your knot at the end of it is as tight but low profile as can be. And then spool it on just like you would any other braid or fluoro, mono, whatever it is. Nice and tight, no loops, no kinks. Set your drag, do what you got to do, and you're ready to go fishing. So I'm going to be doing some more of these tutorials here in the near future. Just some more content. Well, I can't actually be out filming real content. I don't fish in the winter, which I think I'm going to change. Probably maybe even this winter. So we'll see. Puff puff. Leave in the comments below if you found this helpful or if you have any tips or tricks that might add to this. Tony Hawk's trick tips. And at the same time, leave a comment about if there's any other tutorials you'd like to see us do. I think I'm going to do one for putting trailers on jigs, Texas rigs, stuff that's already been done. But if you like us, you like watching us, then learn from us. So subscribe, like, and we love you. Puff Daddies United. Braided up, brand new rod, ready to go. Fish on, daddies.